welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Jim.
and it's Black History Month, so we're kind of continuing on that vibe. Movies that deal with issues related to Black history, racism, things like that. And this week it was Jim's pick. So, Jim, tell us what you had us watch.
I picked a movie that's always had a big impression on me, and since I saw it as a small boy, it's To Kill a Mockingbird from 1962, based on the book written by Harper Lee. I believe she wrote it in 1960 with Gregory Peck as the lead. So
Hmm.
I did not see this movie at the movie theater. I don't recall being 5 years old and watching it, but I do remember seeing it. And then I think it was, I'm sure it was on television, and then reading the book. And then since then, I've watched the movie many, many times. But I hadn't watched it in a long time until
Hmm.
we picked it for our broadcast this time. So, had you seen the movie before?
I had seen parts of it. I'd never watched the movie the whole way through. Like I recall being at my grandmother's in Kentucky and watching it like with
Hmm.
my family. Like I recall us sitting around some of the courtroom scenes.
Oh, okay.
Because I think my grandmother was a fan of the book and I imagine the movie. I think a lot of it's interesting. My grandmother was like a white woman in who grew up in the 40s and 50s in South Central Kentucky, like rural
Oh,
Kentucky. So I think she obviously there was a lot of racism there, and that her and her immediate family were actually very much against at the time. So I think that watching things like this was particularly impactful for her because it she could like relate to things a little
sure.
bit.
Well, and if where she lived was anything like where I grew up in West Virginia in the 50s and the 60s, so you could probably turn back the clock 20 years from that time when you, because everybody's always said, oh, you're stuck in that time period, or you're 20 years behind everybody else, in the
Hmm.
country. So
Yeah.
maybe to
Yeah.
her, it was 1962, but or if she grew up in the 40s, it might have been like growing up in the 20s, everywhere
Hmm.
else. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I recall watching at least part of this there
and you
with
said
her.
you'd read the book though,
Yes, I
as
read the
well.
book going into high school. Going
Oh,
into
okay.
at my high school when you took like honors English, you had summer reading and this was To Kill a Mockingbird was the summer reading going into freshman year. So I read it
Oh,
when I was
nice.
14. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when you read the book? Did you enjoy it or?
I did. I did. I think it was like I mean, reading books for school is
Sure, it's
always like
different.
it always makes it a little bit less fun, but once I like got into it, I did enjoy it. And I think for a while like it was I would have ranked it as like my favorite book.
Okay.
I think since then maybe some other things have shifted it around, but I think also like the way a movie or a book hits you, it also depends on like your context when you read it. But
Hmm.
I do remember really liking it once I kind of got into it for
I
sure.
remember being in high school, and as I was getting ready to graduate, and I remember the book and so on and so forth. And then for a moment in my life, I had, I don't know, ideas of becoming an attorney or of a lawyer, and this was one of the things that kind of influenced me. I thought if I could,
Mm.
you know, be a lawyer that would help people, and then so on and so forth. But and then I'd sort of went in that direction for a little bit, but then life changed things. But yeah, I to me it had a big impact, especially on the the main character's his character and his attitude towards people and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
was without being he was fair and honest and decent without being high-handed or like airy about it. He was just a good person trying to be a good person in a not so good world. So
Yeah. And teaching his kids how to be good people too.
yeah. So
Yeah. I really appreciate that the way that like he engaged with his kids, and in the movie and the book too, like just explaining things to them and being honest
mhm.
and trying to help them understand like what's going on and like why he's doing the things he's doing. I think that is really valuable to me. And I think it's something that like as a former child, um, I think I didn't, adults don't always like take kids seriously. And I think that having such like an upstanding character who like does like he engages with his kids like they're like human people. You know what I mean? Sometimes people
Yeah,
talk to little kids like they're dumb, and
right.
Atticus does not talk to his kids like they're dumb.
Yeah. No, you bring a good point. Actually, I never really thought about that, but he talks to them like he would talk to another adult.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to break things down in a way that like a kid can understand, but like he doesn't condescend to them.
Right. Or just leave them. Like you're going to do what I tell you to do because I'm your father. That never
Yeah.
comes across that way. So
It's not because I said so or like just because this is the way it is. It's like, okay, well, like here's kind of what's going on.
right. Or if you do this, I'll do that. It was
Yeah.
even like not bargain and negotiate, but he would at least talk with him and
Hmm.
deal with him like you said, like a person who has intelligence and can come to a decision on their own.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you said talking about Atticus Finch. So in 2003, the American Film Institute named Atticus Finch the greatest movie hero of the 20th century.
Really,
Yeah.
really,
Hmm.
Atticus.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised because of the nature of his character. I mean, he's not a superhero. He's not an adventurer or anything like that. So, but that's impressive. I think
Hmm. Hmm.
that they thought of enough of the character of that person. And I have to say that Gregory Peck did an amazing job. I thought of
Hmm.
portraying him on the screen. So, but
Yeah.
he was always known, I think, for that kind of role. Being the upstanding type of person who would be a quiet strength, not someone
Hmm.
who was physically against or doing things, but just their resolve and so on and so forth. I've
Yeah.
always liked him in all of his movies. So,
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know if I've seen any other Gregory Peck movies. I know of them like Roman Holiday and stuff like
hmm
that, but I don't
well,
know that
in the
I've seen
'40s,
it.
he was nominated 4 times for leading actor for an
Hmm.
Academy Award. He was
Oh yeah.
Keys to the Kingdom, where he played a priest, and then oh shoot, I can't think of the rest of them. But yeah, he did really good roles. Well, one of his not he was nominated for, but he played Captain Ahab in Moby Dick
Mm.
in the movie version. So, but yeah, he's done a lot of good movies that I've really really enjoyed, even up until the time when he was older.
Hmm.
He did some really good roles.
Oh,
So
he was in Cape Fear. And he's in the original The Omen.
that's one of my movies that I pick, and but we'll get to that. But
Hmm.
yeah, because that movie terrified me.
Hmm.
But that was good. Yeah, with
Yes.
him and Lee
Oh,
Remick.
and he challenged the House Un-American Activities Committee, and he was regarded as a political opponent by Richard Nixon. What a
hmm
guy.
hmm Yeah,
If Richard Nixon doesn't like you, you're probably doing something right.
yeah. Not to bring into modern day context, but there's history sort of repeating itself.
Yeah. Google the Midnight Massacre, friends.
Yeah, yeah, that or justices resigning in protest.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, well, speaking of the legal profession, this is also regarded by the American Film Institute as number one on their list of the 10 greatest courtroom dramas.
Oh, really? Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Well, I could see that. So one of my other favorites is The Verdict with Paul Newman. I don't
Mm,
know if that's on the list or not, but we'll get to that eventually too.
yeah.
If we ever get to Lawyer Month or whatever it may be, the National Attorney Day or something.
Right.
So
If we're ever like having a moment of like, hey, remember laws?
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
remember
Yeah,
the rule of law?
rule of law. Yeah. So
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with To Kill a Mockingbird, first of all, like read the book if you're allowed to, because it's being
Mhm.
banned in some places.
Yeah,
Um,
hurry.
yeah, check it out, buy one, buy a copy, and save it.
Mhm.
It takes place in the early 1930s, so kind of Depression era in Macomb, Alabama. Atticus Finch is a widower. He's a lawyer, and he has two children named Jem, who's like a 10-year-old boy, and Scout, who's like a 6 or 7-year-old girl. Her name is Jean Louise, but everybody calls her Scout.
Hmm.
So it's them, and then they also have a maid named Calpurnia or Cal. She's like the housekeeper, kind of childminder. It sort of follows them through a summer into a fall, their lives, and you just kind of see how they interact with the community. The sort of main driving point, which we'll talk through, is there's a black man is accused of raping a white woman, and Atticus defends him as his attorney. And then the kind of subplot is about this sort of mysterious neighbor named Boo Radley, who like there's all these rumors about him that he like stabbed his father, and he's like sort of like he has this vibe of like a ghost, like he's like haunting.
They keep him chained to the to in his room, and he only comes
Yeah.
out at night, and he eats cats and squirrels.
Yeah. Yes. That
Yeah,
he's like some crazy thing. So that's another kind of subplot that also gets, you know,
mhm.
they all get sort of woven together at the end. So, as Jim said, it's based on Harper Lee's 1960 novel, which won a Pulitzer Prize. The movie was directed by Robert Mulligan, who directed kind of for decades. He also directed Summer of 42, The Other, Same Time Next Year, The Man in the Moon. And then it was written, so the person who wrote the screenplay, they adapted the novel into the screenplay, was Horton Foote. Um,
That's a name
he
now, isn't it? Though Horton
It
Foot.
is.
That's yeah.
It
So
is. He won an Academy Award for his adapted screenplay. He also got an Academy Award for the film Tender Mercies, and he
it's
did a
also
lot of
starred
TV
Robert
work.
Duvall.
Oh,
Sorry, didn't mean to
interesting.
step on. Yeah, he was the
No,
lead in
good.
that. Sorry.
He did a lot of TV work during the golden era of TV, and he was a playwright, so he was just writing a little bit of everything, I guess. So he wrote for things like the Philco Television Playhouse, Playhouse 90, the United States Steel Hour, ITV Playhouse, DuPont Show of the Month. So a lot of
Oh
like,
yeah, so he was like in the beginning of live TV and so on when TV
yeah,
was yeah first coming into wide range popularity. It sounds like.
yeah, absolutely. So Horton was doing a lot of writing of
Yeah.
various kinds. But yeah, I think this is considered like one of the best movies of all time, right? Like it was a commercial success when it came out. Obviously like critically acclaimed. Gregory Peck won Best Actor, Horton Foote won Best Adapted Screenplay, and it won for Best Art Direction. But it was nominated for 5 other Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, and the actress Mary Badham, who plays Scout, who was a child, like fully a child at the time, was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and I think well deserved.
Oh yeah, yeah. So because you pointed out earlier, and then I'm trying not trying to steal your thunder. We see this through the eyes really of the children. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's the whole story unfolds, and it's Scout
Mm-hmm.
sort of narrating
Yeah.
the movie, I guess, as as an older person, but
Mm-hmm.
looking back on
Yeah.
this summer and year.
Yeah. And same as the book. So
Mm,
for people who don't know the book, also Harper Lee, it's like semi-autobiographical. So like her father was also, she grew up in the South. Her father was also a lawyer. So like Scout is kind of her, and Atticus Finch is kind of her dad, and some
mhm.
other characters are based on other people. Jim, I know you mentioned one if you want to talk about that. There's another little kid that's based on another famous
Oh,
author.
a childhood friend of Harper Lee's was Truman Capote, evidently when they were little kids, and then the Dill, the little boy who comes visits for the summer, and then I guess he comes to spend for the school year when school starts,
Hmm.
is based on Truman Capote, evidently. So,
Yeah.
and is pretty precocious and is kind of like a smaller child. So,
Yeah,
you know,
he's a dandy dresser too.
has he wears the the shorts with the high socks and dress shoes, because
Hmm.
if you notice Scout and Jim both wear overalls for the most part,
Yeah.
and then look like either jet jet sneakers or the old I don't even know, maybe Converses,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna say they look like Chuck Taylors.
Chuck Taylor's maybe, back in the day, but that's how much that's usually what they have on, where he has like a little dress shirt, dress
Yeah.
shorts. Yeah. So,
Right, the dress shorts and maybe either like dress shoes or like those like sandals, those like nice like sandals.
right. Yeah. So,
With the socks though, with the knee
with,
socks.
with
He
the knee
dresses like
socks.
a like he's in the royal family. Like if you ever see like Prince Louis and Prince George, like that's how Dill dresses in this movie. So shall we get into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
The sort of opening images of the film are a box of little toys. And we you don't know necessarily at first, but these are actually toys that have been left for Gem and Scout in the hole of a tree by Boo Radley. So there's like little dolls carved out of soap of each of them, and like other little broken claw, a little broken pocket watch, and
Yeah, a little a medal, a spelling medal that maybe
hmm
he had gotten, Boo had gotten as a child, and then a pocket knife. So,
yeah,
and they're in a
yeah,
cigar box, which
hmm
people nowadays may not what, but when I was a kid, we had cigar boxes that we kept things in. So,
hmm
you know, people don't buy cigars probably nearly as much. But my
yeah,
grandfather smoked cigars, so we always had cigar boxes with stuff in it. So,
yeah, and I also like that like the title is revealed by like a kid. And I
mm-hmm.
think this is like an older timey thing too, like the little like kind of stencil things that you would color over. You lay the paper on top and color it. And so that's how the title of the movie is revealed. It says like To Kill a Mockingbird. I thought that was cool.
It was.
Um, and we start with narration by older Scout, who's kind of reflecting on this particular summer that was of significance in her life and like in her memories. And so we meet Scout. She's playing outside, and a man comes, Mr. Cunningham, to offer like some nuts or something.
Walnuts, aren't they? I think,
Like walnuts or something, some sort of
yeah,
nuts that he
a
grew.
sack of nuts. Yeah,
Yeah, to give to her
that
father,
didn't come out
Attic.
right, did it? It was it was a burlap bag with
Yes.
some sort of nut fruit on it in it.
Yes.
So
Yes. Just to be clear, everyone. Uh, so she
sorry.
goes to fetch her father, Atticus, who she calls by his first name. So she's like, Atticus. She's like, oh, come, like, let me get my dad so he can thank you.
Hmm.
Which the guy did not, Mr. Cunningham did not want. And we learn, like Atticus explains to Scout, like he's a proud man. You know, I did some legal work for him that he can't afford, so he's paying me back by giving us these things.
Because
You
he
know,
mentions that last week they had collard greens that his
yeah,
evidently his wife had made and how good they were. So
yeah, yeah. So the Cunninghams like they have like a farm.
yeah.
So he just kind of they bring like whatever they can. This is sort of it's kind of like a barter system really to like thank Atticus for providing those legal services. And he's like, you know, we you don't need to come get me to thank him because like it's that's like embarrassing for him basically. So like just take the nuts and
Mhm.
we're gonna keep it moving. Because he's like, they're very poor, they can't afford to pay us. And Scout's like, are we poor? And he's
Well,
like,
and he goes, yes.
yes, not as poor as them, but like, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
we're
the Depression, so like
right.
everybody's poor.
And he even mentions that they were farmers, not the Cunninghams were farmers, and they were hit harder by the
Hmm.
depression than other people were. Even someone like Atticus or whatever. So I,
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. That
Hmm.
it's so now again one of his little lessons to scout.
Hmm.
How people are affected or by the
Yeah.
things that go on. So.
And another case of him just like being like honest and like
Hmm.
straightforward with her, you know? We meet some other folks. We meet Jem, who's her older brother. He's mad because Atticus won't, he wants Atticus to play football. And Atticus is like, I'm too old to play football.
Yeah, for the
And Jem's like,
Methodists.
oh yeah, because Jem's like, he's in the treehouse and will not come down until Atticus agrees to play football. And he's like, well, like, I'm not doing it. And you got to eat dinner. So, like, come
Yeah.
on. We
But he
meet.
doesn't yell at Jim like to get down out of that treehouse right now, or I'll, come up here. He just says,
Yes.
whatever,
He's like, I'm not doing it.
I'm
So
not, yeah, yeah. So,
hope you enjoyed the treehouse, I guess.
yeah, you're going to miss breakfast, and it's a really good one. So,
Yep. We're making choices here. And then we also, this is when we meet Dill. He's staying next door with his Aunt Stephanie. He is originally from Meridian, Mississippi.
which
And
must be a booming big town compared to Macon.
yes, yes. So they're hanging out. He's like about the same age as Scout. He's closer in age to Scout than Jem.
Yeah.
But Jem is telling him about Boo Radley, the legend of Boo Radley, and how he only comes out at night, and he's like 6.5 feet tall and eats like live animals and stuff like
And
that.
he drools. He talks about how he drools, and
Yes.
he's got horrible rotting teeth, and of course Jim's never seen Boo
Right.
Radley.
Jem has never seen this person, never laid eyes.
No.
I also wrote in my notes like, I love these little country ass kids because they are so like, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
And by the way, if y'all haven't seen the movie, that's yeah, Lindsay's dead spot on.
I'm
So
not making fun. That's how they
no, that's
talk.
how they
They're
talk. Yeah. So
like, well, I reckon it's about to be time for supper.
so goes brings me back to my childhood too. So they're
Hmm.
back in West Virginia, and I'm sure your roots in Kentucky. So
Yeah, I mean, most of like my cousins didn't grow up like in the South part, but I always remember there was one little girl I knew who's like my cousin's cousin. Whew, little Kentucky ass kid, just like just stretching out words. I hit my head,
it,
two syllables in head,
oh,
on the side of the pool. Pool,
well,
2 syllables.
people used to talk to me about like I could. My first name is Jim, and they said you're the only person I know that can make that 2 syllables. It's Jim,
Jam.
Jim. So yep, that's how we
Yes,
talk down there. So,
yes. And yeah, we get a sense of like their relationship with Atticus. They're obviously very, very close with their father, even though they call him Atticus, which does seems like it's like distance, but they're like very
mhm.
close. And he's kind of like I don't want to say like dotes on them, but like obviously like is very, very like involved and hands-on and stuff.
Well,
And
and he is a widower.
he is a widower,
Yeah,
yes.
we learned that his wife had passed away. So
Yeah. And when they're going to bed, because he's like putting them to bed and, teaching Scout how to read and all of this stuff. And as Scout and Jem are going to bed, it's very sweet. Scout asks how old she was when their mom died, and she was 2, and Jem was 6. And so she's asking him all these questions like, was she pretty? And did she love me? And did you love her? And like Atticus is sitting outside listening to this conversation. And clearly, he's looking a little wistful
yeah,
too. But it's like very sweet. They're a very sweet, sweet little family.
they are. I'd
Oh,
like
go
to
ahead.
make one observation. I'm sorry. So they
Hmm.
talked about this was summertime, and they talked
Hmm.
about how hot it is and everything. And did you know Atticus is wearing like a sweater vest and a shirt and tie, and even when the judge comes over, like he's wearing a coat and tie, and this is in the evening and stuff. And they talk
Hmm.
about, boy, it's hot out here, isn't it? And I'm sitting there thinking,
We
fellas,
don't.
you guys are dressed like it's October, up in
Right,
Pennsylvania,
right.
and it's August evidently in Georgia,
Alabama,
Alabama. So yeah, I keep thinking it was Macon, Georgia, but it was Macon, Alabama,
Macomb.
Macomb.
Um,
But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, fella, but I
yeah.
guess that's how men dressed,
Yeah, I
back
will
then.
say their suits did look a little more on like the linen-y side.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but like the sweater and still all the layers.
I know. And but Atticus never sweats.
No, he's
No.
he's just cool as a cucumber over
Cucumber.
there.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
Um,
so just a
so speaking of the judge coming over, this is sort of where like the plot kind of kicks off. This like main plot. Because the judge comes over and he says that this black man, Tom Robinson, has been accused of raping a white woman, and he is appointing Atticus to represent him. So he's going to be arraigned the next day. The grand jury brought up charges on him. And so yeah, it's gonna be difficult.
And he sort of, I got the impression that the judge was, he maybe didn't want to put this on Atticus because he said, he goes, I know you're busy, you have your children and everything, but it sort of felt like he thought that Atticus would be the only one that he knew that would really do a good job.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
Atticus didn't hesitate.
Yeah. He's like, okay.
Yep, I'll do it.
Yes. So the next day, the kids are amusing themselves. They're doing a very fun game of rolling in a tire, which I guess depression era activities.
You got to find your fun where you can, you
Yeah, they're
know.
like, "Oh, here's a tire. Scout, get in it. We're gonna roll you." And she rolls right up to the Radley house, which everyone's like, "Oh no, oh no." They run away before Boo can get them. And then they decide, let's go on down to the courthouse and watch an arraignment.
Times are slow. Come on now, you know.
Yeah, I guess not much happening in Macomb, Alabama.
I reckon.
Uh,
So
they could, they need to find a nickel and go to the picture show.
I thought about that and I thought, but you never hear mention of that or anything like a
No,
movie theater. And maybe there's not enough money, to go to the picture
maybe.
show,
But
So
I because they had them in Meridian, Mississippi, because Dill was going because he said my mama entered my in the cutest babies contest and we won $5 whole and I got to go to the picture show like 30 times or however much 12 times. I don't
yeah,
know how much that gets you, but $5 went very far at the time, I guess, at the picture show in
you could
Meridian,
probably buy a
Mississippi.
suit for $5. So just saying,
Probably.
yeah. So
So yeah, they go. They're doing this sort of like classic, like little rascals, like let's lift one kid up to like look in the window to tell us what's happening. And Atticus comes out another way and catches them in this configuration. And he's like, you all need to leave.
he goes, "What are you doing here?" It's like, you know,
We were bored, and the guys outside said you were here. So Atticus is confronted by Bob Ewell, who is the father of the alleged victim of the rape. Uh, it She was not raped, just to be clear.
Mhm.
People, we'll talk more about it when we get to the trial, but like she
Yeah.
wasn't. Just racist, just racist.
She was beaten, however,
She was beaten, not
but
by
not
him,
but yeah, but not raped. So
not by Tom Robinson. So he confronts Atticus there and is like, I would have just I wish that he was basically like, I wish I should have just saved you the trouble and I would have just killed him.
Mhm.
He calls him the N-word, because of course he does.
Yep.
He's like kind of disgusted with Atticus. He's like, you believe his story that he's telling you?
Hmm.
And Atticus is like, I was appointed to defend him, and I will do just that.
Yep. No,
Period.
right. No big discussion, no, no speeches or anything. Just I was given this job and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Hmm. Yeah. Back to the kids at night. Dill dares Jem to go look in the window at the Radley house.
Oh God.
So they're going there. It's so funny because they're like, we can't go in the front. So let's go around back, but the gate is squeaky. So they're greasing the gate with spit. They're spitting on the hinges of this gate to try to make it not like it's so funny.
You got to do what you got to do. And buddy, they are into it too, aren't they? It's
Oh
like
my God.
I know,
These kids are hydrated.
and yeah, because they don't get it enough the first time, so
Yeah, so they got to keep like
yeah, spit on it some more. Yeah, so yeah,
so they make it and they go get up on the back porch. Jem's looking in the window and then there's a big shadow
scary.
that's coming toward him.
It's like the
And
thing of
it's
Nosferatu.
yes,
It's
exactly.
yeah, and it's got like its hands,
Yeah, like he's gonna grab Jem.
and Jim sort of cowers, like he
Yeah. And as soon as they can get away, them kids are bolting. They are out.
You remember how fast you used to run when you were a kid, though, and it was
Yes.
like it was like man, you just ran. It was,
Yes.
it didn't matter how far you had to go or whatever, you just ran. So
It
yeah,
was
that's
just
what
with a abandon. Like
exactly.
you're just
Yeah.
going, you're just lighting. And as they're going, Jem gets caught. They're trying to crawl under this fence that they'd crawled under before, and Jem gets caught. So basically, they like unhook his overalls, and he runs out without his pants. He has to run out of his pants. They get home, and Dill's called to go home, so he goes home. And then Jem's like, "Well, I gotta go back for my pants. I can't go in. I can't go in our house without any pants on." And Scout's like, "Oh God, I don't want." Like she's
Yeah.
worried about him.
Yeah. Or
So
she'll go,
he's
just
like,
go get him in the morning. No, I can't go get him in the morning. I gotta go.
"Yes."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'll be back before you can like count to 10 or whatever." So he takes off running, and she's like, "One, two." Atticus is like, "Kids, come in. Kids, come in." And she's just like, and then you hear a gunshot,
Hmm. And
and you're like, "Oh my God."
and the color drains out of Scout's face. You can see she's like, "Oh my God, they've shot Jim."
Yeah. Thankfully, he reappears like right after that. And it's
With
like
his pants.
with his pants, with his pants. He's good. They were able to make it inside, and we learn too the next day like the town gossip people are like there was a prowler at the back of the Radley house, and it's
Mr.
like
Radley shot at him with a
mm,
shotgun. So
Jem,
Jim,
you close call there for those over. I hope those were some nice overalls, man.
well, I think it was more that maybe Dad might say something if I walked in without my pants.
Yeah, yeah.
Jim, where are your pants? They're hooked on the fence by Boo Radley's house.
Yeah. The next day, it's the first day of school. So Jem is in his finery. He's got
Oh, and his little schoolboy
his little
outfit on.
schoolboy outfit, his little like short pants, little like capri pants. And Scout has to wear a dress.
Oh, and she is not happy.
She hates it. She's obviously like a little tomboy.
And she does do a good job. The look on her face, it's like, oh, it's like
Mm-hmm.
she just looks uncomfortable. You know what?
Right.
It's not even like, that, I just hate wearing this. It was like, you could really, to me, it really seemed like, this was like the last thing in the world she wanted to wear to school
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
or
sort of
anywhere.
like if you ever like put a harness on your cat and they sort of just like kind of hunch and like freeze and it's just like, what is this on me? Like that's the
Yeah,
body language from Scout. She's just like,
that's a great
what
analogy.
is this on my body?
Yes.
Because they even
So,
have like a neighbor lady over to like help her like get ready because she doesn't have like a mom to do that. And she's like,
right.
Miss Jean Louise, you look so pretty. And she's like, ugh.
And then she's tugging at her neckline, and then Cal
Yes.
like says, What? Don't do that. You get it all wrinkled before you even get to school."
Yes.
And then we learn Jim's kind of an odd guy because he can't wait to go to school.
Yeah, he's trying to go.
Yeah.
Bye.
And did you
Um,
happen to notice the breakfast that Scout had in front of her? She had like it looked like ham and eggs and or
mm,
bacon and grits and
it was a big
milk,
old
and I
breakfast.
know it was like, damn, is she going to go out and cut wood later on or something, or what
That
the
would make me
hell?
fall asleep at school.
You and me both. I'm sitting there thinking, man, I'll be like, snot sawing logs,
Exactly.
but
Scout gets in a fight on day one because somebody was trying to give the Cunningham kid some money for lunch because he didn't have any. And she's like, well, my dad told me, like, they don't want like charity. So,
right.
like, don't do that. She ended up in a fight. And then Jem invites little Cunningham, little Walter Cunningham over for dinner. And they just welcome him at their table. So it's Scout and Jem and Walter and Atticus having dinner, and he's talking to Walter about like what his family does, and like they have guns and they go out shooting, and he talks about how he had a gun and he was allowed to shoot birds
Blue
except
Jays.
blue jays,
Yeah.
but he could not kill a mockingbird. Title alert. Because to kill a mockingbird is a sin, basically, because like they don't do anything to anybody.
Yep. They just sing. They're
They just
they
sing.
yeah, they make pretty music and then they don't hurt anybody or do anything to
They don't
do
like make
anything.
nests in your stuff. They just do their thing
Hmm.
and sing some songs.
Don't you like the
Walter.
way Atticus though was like dishing up dinner for everybody? You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
I always love that scene where he's like he's putting the food on the plates for everyone.
Yeah.
I like that. So
Yeah. Again, they're such a sweet family. And like it's always a nice sweet family when you can just like welcome somebody else over and
I was
Atticus is really like engaging with him and like, Walter,
yeah,
tell me about like what you like to do. Like how was your
yeah,
day? Do you like school? And
yeah,
then Walter is like obviously does not get this much food.
yeah.
Because he says too they usually eat like rabbits and squirrels or whatever. He's like,
Squirrels,
we
yeah.
don't get like this kind of stuff.
Roast. Yeah, he goes, I
Roast.
haven't had a roast, and you can see his eyes are like, he's like
Mm-hmm.
he's in heaven. So
Yeah.
poor
Then
little thing.
he's like Buddy the Elf. He starts drowning his food in syrup. And Scout is like, ew, what the hell are you doing? And Calpurnia is like, Scout, come here.
Come here
She
in his
calls her into the
kitchen.
kitchen. Like, do not. You cannot let him alone.
I
Like,
love how she says, that is your guest. If he decides to eat that tablecloth, that is his right. It's,
yes.
there's nothing you can say to him about and if you can't behave, you just sit right here in this kitchen.
Uh-huh. It
And
was so funny though, because she was just like, ew, what are you
ew, I
doing?
know it was like, and then you saw Walter. He felt so bad. He put his face in his
Yeah.
hands, just
Because
and
Atticus also calls her out first. He's like, Scout, don't be rude. And she's like, you see him putting all this syrup all over his food? Ew.
poor thing, But
Hmm.
yeah, just like maybe that's just the way he was used to eating things,
Yeah. I mean, it's probably like if you can get something like syrup more cheaply and the
Yeah,
food you're eating is garbage, of course you're
right.
gonna just like
Or,
drown it in syrup or
or if it tastes
whatever.
bad, it's like people who put ketchup on everything.
Yeah.
And I knew people like that when I was growing up.
Hmm.
They'd put ketchup on anything, because for whatever reason, whatever they had, it didn't maybe taste good to them or something. So,
Yeah. So maybe
yeah,
that's just what he's used to at home. But it
exactly.
was,
Yeah.
another little lesson for Scout.
For Scout, yeah, Scout doesn't
Um,
seem to, yeah, she has to grasp a lot of life's lessons.
Yeah,
So,
she's still learning some social graces. She's only 6 though. But I think in some ways that's what's like good about her and like the movie being from her perspective that there is kids don't like have a filter, right? That they just like are sort of delightfully oblivious and we see that come up later that she's just like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" And it's
yeah.
like some adult stuff is happening and they're like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
But it's just her being like, "Oh, hey,
Yeah.
what's
Um,
up everybody?" Hey,
yeah,
cool.
how's everybody doing? So,
Yeah. So Scout does not like school. She doesn't want to go
nope.
back. She doesn't like the teacher. She says the teacher like says that the way Atticus taught her to read is wrong, which seems crazy. It's like the end goal seems is the point. So like,
Right.
can you
Yeah.
read?
And
How
obviously
w
Scout can because she's reading Robinson Crusoe.
right.
Yeah,
So it's like I'm not sure that the journey matters as much as the destination when it comes to learning how to read, but okay. And she's basically like talking crap about her teacher and Atticus again another life lesson and he's like you need to learn how to kind of see things from her point of view, right? She's trying to teach you things and she's trying to teach you things like the right way, so you can't really consider another person until you consider like walking in their shoes basically. And so she's like, hmm, okay. She's like, wow, my dad can explain anything.
yeah, and she says that. She goes, there wasn't anything Atticus couldn't explain.
Yeah. Which is great. Like what a great trait to have as a person, or
Yeah,
especially as like a parent, to just like be able to just like break it down
right.
for your kids.
And it's not bullshit. It's just, you're telling them the truth
Yeah,
but you're explaining it to them in a way that they can understand it.
exactly, exactly. And it made me think of like when we watched Ruby Bridges and like she's asking her
Hmm.
parents and she's asking Miss Henry like what is happening? And
Right.
they're telling her. They're
Yeah.
just telling
They're
her in a way she can understand.
right. That yeah, there's people that don't like her just because of the color of her skin and not because of anything she did or anything
Yeah.
she said. So,
Yes.
and
And
those
it's
people are stupid.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, they're ignorant.
Yes.
Morons. Sorry,
So,
that's a line from Blazing Saddles.
oh, okay. The next bit of drama in life is there's a mad dog in the street. There's a
It's
rabid dog.
I wonder how they got the dog to do that.
I don't
Because it's like
know.
snarl, but the tail's wagging, so it's like
Yeah.
but it's like snarling and it's walking funny, like it's
Yeah.
all hunched up and stuff. I was sitting there thinking, God, I hope they didn't hurt that dog to make it
I
walk like
know.
that,
I
because
hope not.
this was maybe back in the days before they, had no, they had to have a code for animal behavior, didn't
Yeah,
they?
in
Back,
62, I imagine they
yeah,
did.
yeah. So, but yeah, the
Uh,
tail's wagging, so it's
it's very dramatic. It's like at the end of the street.
oh, I
Calpurnia
know.
like makes the kids come in and she calls Atticus to come down and he comes with the sheriff. And the sheriff's like, "Well, I can't take this shot." To which I was like, "You're the sheriff."
Well, and
So
he
he
even
gives the
says
gun to Atticus.
I'm not that good of a shot, and I'm sitting there thinking, my God, you're the sheriff.
I literally wrote, the sheriff can't shoot it and asks Atticus to, in parentheses, how does this make sense? Um, Apparently Atticus is the best shot in the county, so he gets the gun and does the job.
And
He's like taking out rabid dogs at 40 clicks or
yeah,
whatever. Like,
whatever, yeah. So, and you can see the look on Jim's face because he's like, they don't think Atticus can do anything except be smart, and then
mm-hmm.
and the sheriff says, don't you know that your dad's the best shot in this county? And they're like,
Evidently they did not.
they did not, yeah. So, and then Atticus tells him, leave it. You stay away from that dog. He's just as dangerous dead as he was alive. So
Mm-hmm. Because he knows his kids will be over there poking it with a stick or something.
exactly, like Dill would be over there, oh, let's see
His
what
little, his giant teeth just like
let's
right
see
up in its
let's see
face.
yeah, let's see what's wrong with it.
Yes. So Atticus is going to go to Tom Robinson's house to meet with his family and talk about things, and the kids go with him because they like
Hmm.
to go places with their dad. And
Yeah.
they wait in the car though, and suddenly Bob Ewell is loitering around. He's just like putting his face like right by the window. So gross, like
This guy
leave
did
the
a good
kids.
job of being a evil person, the
Yes,
actor.
being an
So
evil like hick
oh yeah, oh
because he
yeah.
looked like
Hmm. Hmm.
he was given hillbilly.
Well, he was like the movie with Burt Reynolds. Man,
Deliverance?
Deliverance. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear banjo music.
He was
So
very deliverance.
he was. So.
So also this is when Jim he finds some more things in the tree.
Hmm.
Some gifts in the tree from Boo. Some nice little trinkets. So that's always fun. And then Atticus's job starts to impact the kids because now kids at school are coming up to scout. First of all, she was supposed to stop fighting. Atticus had explicitly directed her to stop fighting. She fought a boy at school because he said that her dad defends N words. And I think this conversation starts because Atticus like walks up to her and she's like, "Dad, Atticus, do you defend N words?" And he's like, "What?"
He says,
And
don't say that. He said, don't
yeah.
use that word.
Yeah. So a kid said that to her and she fought him. And he's like, "So stop fighting.
Yeah.
I told you to stop fighting. Stop fighting." And but he explains to her as he's an explainer. He explains like, he's defending Tom and a lot of people think that he should not.
Mhm.
But like he is because everybody is entitled to a defense. It's the right thing to do.
And he also told her it didn't matter what the reason was. He still didn't want her to fight. It was
Yes.
he said, I forbid you to fight. He goes, it doesn't matter what the reason is. You don't fight, at school. So
Yeah.
so
I would secretly give her a little pound. I'd be like, "Good job, girl."
I get you. So, but yeah,
But Atticus he's a
Atticus
man
has
of
his.
principle.
I was going to say he has his principles, so he's trying to.
I'm like, "You punch that little racist shit in the mouth."
That's right. The minute that lips start to form that word, you just,
That's
you,
the kind of school I went to. I went to a talk shit get hit school.
sometimes those are the best lessons. So,
Yeah. So Jem also now tells Scout about Boo and like the gifts and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Lets her in on the secret
yeah.
because he's been the one that's collecting the little things, I
Hmm.
guess. So
Yeah. So the next kind of big thing, Atticus is sitting outside of Tom Robinson's jail cell with a gun to protect him because he knows that there are people that are going to try to kill him even before his trial, obviously including like Mr. Ewell and others in the town.
I like that he has a lamp too out there where he can read. So
Yes, he's got to
it,
pass the time.
yeah, I won't say a comfortable chair, but he's got his book or whatever, but he's got like a regular reading lamp, with a plug going into the window,
Yeah.
so I like that.
It
So
is a nice little setup. I would
it
want to do
is.
that too. It's like I can't just sit here. I need a book to read.
Exactly. You can't, yeah, otherwise you'd be bored, right? So
Exactly. And so there's a lynch mob kind of rolls up. It's a bunch of old white guys from around the town, and the kids go. So Jem and Scout and I don't know if Dill's there.
Dill's there.
Dill's
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah, come on, Dill's always there.
Dill is always there. He's so cute with his big old teeth. Um Scout recognizes Mr. Cunningham. So imagine, if you will, a lynch mob, a group of angry white men ready to come kill a black man, and then a little.
And they've got
They've
guns.
got guns.
Yeah.
This is, I guess, they're not KKK because they're face out.
I was getting ready to say they're not hiding under
They're not
hoods.
hiding who they are, and
No.
perhaps that's something they might consider in the future because Scout is like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Cunningham. Hey,
Yeah.
do you remember me? You came to my house and you brought us some nuts, and then I went and got my dad to say thank you. Also, I go to school with your son, Walter. Will you tell him I said hi?" And like, obviously, she's just being a child and like being
Right.
friendly to an adult that she knows. He's like so embarrassed. And I think this is like my favorite part of the movie because it's just like it just shows you that like they know that this is like a shameful thing,
Hmm.
right? If you really believe in this, then you'll say, "Hey, Scout, step away.
Yeah.
We got some things to do. We got some adult business to handle," right?
Eh,
But you know that this is wrong to the extent that a child just saying your name and recognizing you has you like crumbling in on yourself.
Well, and being being friendly to you, like
Mm-hmm.
but and not saying why are you here or just hey,
Right.
you know, tell Walter I said hey,
Yeah, like you're coming with murderous intent, and some little child is just like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Cunningham, remember me?"
yeah,
And
and
like really reminding you, like, "Oh, hey, like you can be like a decent person."
exactly,
And he's like, the gears are turning, like, "Oh, I'm actually not." Like,
yeah,
you know? And eventually they all like he's like yeah, I'll like tell him you said hi. And
yeah.
they all kind of disperse.
He says he goes, come on, fellas, let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
cuz
leave.
it's we can't do this now and Atticus makes the kids go home. And then you hear Tom from inside
Yeah.
the cell
Oh,
be like, did the men leave?" Ugh.
and and that's profound. And then Atticus is like, they won't bother you anymore tonight.
Yeah.
But he still stays.
He still stays.
He still stays.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean, it
God.
just yeah, just there's just just something about his character, that
Mhm.
he just does the right thing.
Yeah. Ugh. But yeah, that part was really powerful to me. Just like the little kids, because
Hmm.
little kids, like I said, that like sort of obliviousness. She didn't know that they were there to like do bad stuff. She's just like, oh, it's just a bunch of adults,
Yeah,
and
and
I
she
happen to know that
recognized,
one,
yeah, I know Mr. Cunningham
and
because he
I
came
know.
by the house.
Let me be polite and say hello
Yeah,
to him.
yeah, and I know his son.
Yeah, me and Walter are good now.
Yeah, we're buddies now.
Yeah,
Even though
I'm not gonna make fun of him anymore.
even though Walter pours syrup all over his food. So
Yeah, so just tell him I said hi, and like that's enough
yeah,
to disarm him.
that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. It is it is a great scene, but you're right. It is a very powerful scene too, where the maybe the innocence of a child, can
Yeah.
diffuse
Yeah.
that kind of a situation or make that person recognize
Hmm.
what he's doing or what he's thinking is just so horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it does break your like being part of a group and then being singled out as an individual is different, right? Because if you're just
sure.
like in like the group think and like we're all together and we're all amped up and we're going to do this, and then someone says, "Hey, you, Mr.
Hmm.
Cunningham," then you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I have to own this too."
Hmm.
Right? This isn't just like I can't just be say I'm being swept up
Right. Yeah.
with the
Oh,
group. Like,
it was all of us. It was, oh, now it's me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that part was just like so powerful. It was just like the God, the way that he was like disarmed, and I don't mean like literally disarmed. He still had a gun, but like disarmed like
No,
emotionally.
no.
Like,
Even more so than it. Yeah. Yeah. Even more so than if she just physically taken the gun away from him.
hmm
She, made
she
him
sort of took the wind out of his sails.
excellent, excellent, excellent way
Yeah.
of putting it.
So then it's time for the trial, which I think again is one of these sort of big parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Big, most like memorable, significant parts of this movie. I think this is part of what I have seen of this movie before. So, um, the kids sneak in to the courthouse because how do you want to spend your summer? By sitting in
Mhm.
on a trial. But obviously, it's a very significant trial in the community, and they know that. So there's no seats down in the gallery, so they go up top with the. It's a segregated courthouse, so all the black folks have to sit up top
Right.
in the gallery. So they there's the local reverend. He lets them sit with them up top. The local black reverend. Which again, these kids are just like, okay, cool, thanks.
Well, yeah, to them, oh, we can't go sit up there. It's like, oh, we'll go sit with you, Reverend. Reverend, can we come sit with you? You know,
Yeah. So it's just like he's just like another adult, and they're like, "Sir, can we
E-
sit with you?" And he's
exactly.
like, "Yep."
And he's a man of respect because he's a reverend. He's a minister. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting courthouse setup. Obviously, this is from the 1930s. It's supposed to be the 1930s, so we're not in like Law and Order world, but there is an all-white male jury, of course. The
mhm.
judge is just like chill, looks first of all barely awake most of the time. Just wearing regular clothes too. No
No
robes or anything.
robe. It's too hot for a robe.
Yeah.
Everybody's fanning
Um,
themselves.
yes. Especially the black, they're up top. Heat rises.
I was getting ready to say, can you imagine how hot it was up there? Jeez.
Yeah. And then it's a very kind of sparse setup, right? There's not like a big witness stand. There's a chair in front of the judge that the
I
witness
know,
sits in,
yeah.
and
And
they
it,
just like walk up to you
and it
to
doesn't
ask
look
you
like a very
questions.
comfy chair either.
No.
So,
So the witnesses are obviously saying the accusation is that Tom Robinson raped Mayella Ewell, who is this Bob Ewell's daughter. She had a lot of injuries, bruises, and fingerprint bruises around her neck, a black eye. And Atticus, because he's a good lawyer, he's asking the question. So he's like, well, which eye was black? And where were the bruises? And like, what did the handprint on her neck look like? Can you tell me like which direction? Da da da. Because he's like, evidence.
right.
Because there right now there's not evidence. There's just people saying stuff.
Yeah, just I
The
saw,
sheriff is like, this is what I was told.
right. He didn't see anything. So
Hmm
he was called after it
Yeah.
happened.
And no one called a doctor. That's
Right.
something that Atticus drives home with like every witness, and nobody called it. All this happened to her, and nobody called a doctor.
Right. Nobody thought to get her a doctor.
Yeah. Mr. Ewell testifies. He says that he saw Tom in the house, and he ran away, and Mayella was on the floor screaming. Atticus is like, "Huh, okay. Can you read and write?" He's like, "Oh, yes, I can read and write." It's like, can you write your name on this piece of paper for me?" So Mr. Yule writes his name. He is left-handed, and we learned earlier during the sheriff's testimony. Heck, I love that that's his name, Sheriff
I know.
Heck.
Yeah.
Well, it's Sheriff. So he has a different last name, but they call him Heck.
Heck.
Heck. She was hit. Her right eye was black,
Right. Her right side of her face was
was
the one.
bruised, which suggests a left-handed person.
Right.
So
Correct.
Atticus has established that Mr. Ewell, her father, is left-handed. Atticus, then Mayella. is the next witness. Atticus asks her, and she has her story that she asked Tom to come in to bust up some like piece
A
of furniture.
chiffero, which
A
I assume is a piece of furniture.
Schiffer rope. Yeah, that's my understanding that it's like a
I never.
uh
I remembered when I saw the movie again that, that they called it a chiffero, and I didn't even bother to. I just assumed it was like a wardrobe or something.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's a dresser.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, there you go. So,
So
yeah.
yeah. It's like a wooden dresser closet thing. So she had asked him to Tom to come in to help bust that up, and she was going to give him like a nickel or whatever. And then he like pounced on her and beat her and raped her and stuff. Atticus obviously does not believe this because it's not the truth. And he's like, did your dad beat you? And she's like, oh my God, absolutely not. It was Tom.
Mhm.
And she like is increasingly and her story is changing. She's saying contradictory things. She's getting increasingly like more emotional and has kind of an outburst. She's like, if you all don't do what you're supposed to do to that man, then you're all cowards.
All your fancy ways and your education and your may I and
Mm-hmm.
please and may it please the court, like she's directing it at Atticus, like
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to be outsmart them, or
Yes.
trying to trick them into saying something that's not the truth when
Yeah.
he's actually trying to get them to say what happened. So
Mm-hmm. And we also learned during her testimony, Tom can't use his left hand. It was like catastrophically injured in a cotton gin accident. So like it tore the muscle from his he like cannot use that arm
at all. Yeah.
at all. And
Yeah, he
he's like,
throws a glass at him and he
yeah,
catches it with his right hand. He says, "Now
yeah,
catch it with your left." And he says, "I
I
can't."
can't. He can't lift his hand even.
Mhm.
So, but Mael still insists that she raped her and that's when she's like yelling at Atticus and you're all cowards and then she like tries to run away and
Yeah, and Daddy's there to, comfort
yeah,
her or whatever. So,
yeah. And the last person that has to testify is Tom himself. And certainly like the prosecution is like, oh, you're so strong. If you can bust off a chifforobe with your one hand, what else can you do with your one hand? So they're just trying to portray him as like a big, strong kind of brute. And, I think typical of like stereotypical ways that people have portrayed and probably still portray like black men as uniquely like strong and violent and all this stuff.
yep.
And kind of like sexual predators coming after white women.
Mhm.
Think of like people like Emmett Till and like all of that kind of thing. And he says he did go in there to bust up the chifforobe to help her, but then she jumped on him and started kissing him.
Mhm.
And as this story unfolds, we get to kind of a statement by him that does seem to be the nail in the coffin for him. And he says he felt sorry for her. Because people are like, oh, why didn't you like do X, Y, and Z? And he's like, he didn't want to like make it worse for her because he felt bad for her, which I think is probably true because her life obviously
Oh,
sucks.
well, yeah, because they said something about there were seven other kids on the
Hmm.
place or something. And I don't know if they're all Yule's kids, I guess,
Hmm.
like her brothers and sisters, and who knows what else is going on there. But
Yeah.
yeah, and his performance was, especially while he was, on the stand, the actor
Hmm.
who played Tom.
Yeah.
He talks about, he said he felt right sorry for her.
Hmm. And that was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, you could almost see you could even see in Atticus's face, like he just thinks, "Oh, Tom, you should not have said that."
Hmm.
That's where, now they're going to think, how could you feel sorry for her?
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Also, that actor is Brock Peters.
Oh, okay. He's
So
been in
yeah.
other things. I know
Yes. Yes. He's been in he did some Broadway. He voiced the role of Darth Vader in the serial radio drama adaptations of Star Wars movies. He
oh,
played
that's who that was. I've
he was
listened
in
to those.
Star Trek. He was
Oh, he played an
Starfleet
admiral, I think,
Admiral
wasn't
Cartwright in two
he?
of the
Yeah, yeah,
original
yeah.
cast feature films, and then he was also in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He was in Carmen Jones, The
Oh,
Pawnbroker,
oh,
Soylent Green. and Ghosts of Mississippi.
Oh, oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
he was in a lot. He won a SAG Lifetime Achievement Award in 1991, and he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
good for him. So good actor
Yes, for sure.
and a very unique,
Um,
distinctive voice.
yes. Oh, and he was in the original film version of Porgy and Bess in
Oh,
1959.
oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, so he says he felt sorry for her, which is like almost like worse than if he had raped her. It feels
I
like the way
know.
that people act, like, oh, you think it because it. I feel like they would expect him to like want to rape her, right? Because they have this idea of like black men, sexual
And
predators, and da
white
da da.
women, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're like animals, right?
Can't
But
they can't help themselves.
yes, the idea that a black man would feel bad, would put himself above a white woman in that
Hmm.
way,
Right.
they cannot abide that. And they like seize on that. They're like, you feel sorry for her?
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
dare you? Then we get Atticus's closing argument, which I do think is another one of the like really high points of the
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
Gregory Peck is he earned the Oscar
There.
uh, in this scene.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and basically his argument is like there is literally no evidence that Tom did this. No one has produced any evidence. All they're doing is saying he did it.
Right.
There is no evidence that he did it. She was obviously beaten by someone left-handed, and he literally cannot use his left hand. Like just logic. Mayella, and he and Atticus sort of frames it too. Like I feel bad for Mayella because she just felt guilty, right? She broke a sort of unspoken rule, well, probably spoken rule of society, right? There is this idea that like white does not mix with black, and she kissed a black man, and she felt guilty about that. So she had to make up this story to like save face for herself.
Right.
And then he says something, and I thought that this was really interesting too. Like all these other witnesses were white, and they just walk in here and they know you're going to believe them. They just have that expectation.
Hmm.
And this black man has to put his word against theirs when he's already like at such a disadvantage.
It's a very powerful piece of
Hmm.
work, don't you think? And the writing is so
Yes.
good. So
Yes. Agreed. Agreed for sure. So then the jury deliberates. Everyone's waiting. It's like a couple of hours. And you can see everybody's they're fanning themselves. People, Dill
it's
is
getting
literally
hotter.
sitting on the Reverend, passed out,
He's
which I thought
asleep.
was such a like a again, it's just like another thing of like these kids like don't know it, right? They're just he's just like, you're an adult. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep on you, Mr. Reverend.
Well, he's safe. He feels,
Yeah.
there's nothing that's going to happen to him.
Hmm.
He doesn't feel like he's, oh, I can't be here. Or I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah,
Yeah. And the
yeah,
Reverend's just holding yeah, he's just
yeah,
holding him.
yeah. He's like,
He's
whatever.
fanning them, but he's fanning
He's
both of them.
he's probably sitting there thinking, God, this little kid weighs a ton.
No, he's Dill is very small. He's probably
Well,
fine.
that's true. Yeah,
But
but the
he's like,
Reverend's got to be roasting. He's wearing a dark suit,
I know.
and
He's like he's fanning Dill, fanning himself, and like Jem's resting against the railing, and
and
Scout sitting on the floor,
floor.
and
Yeah,
but I just like that image of Dill just sleeping on the Reverend was just like so sweet to me because it's
it
just
is.
like
Yeah,
again, it's just like they're just
yeah.
I
They're
don't
they're
know.
just kids. They're
Right?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
Miss Henry says in Ruby Bridges, like these kids don't they have to be taught to hate.
Hate, but yeah. So
So after 2 hours, the jury comes back and they find Tom guilty.
to no one's surprise, it
To
seems
no one's
like
surprise, yeah. And
even
Atticus is
Atticus.
like, we're gonna file an appeal, like it's okay. And Tom is just like, he says nothing.
Yeah, he's just
Even when Atticus is like, I'm gonna go talk to your family, and then I'm gonna come back and talk to you, and we're gonna figure out our. And Tom just looks at him and
right.
just turns back around.
But you can see Atticus, like Tom. You got to, he said he goes. I expected this. We're gonna,
Hmm.
get ready for the next round. This will all be okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that Tom believes that.
Well, I'm sure.
Well, because it's like how can you have hope in a situation like that?
Exactly. Yeah. So
That it seems it feels like it would be dangerous to have hope in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Um,
False expectations. So,
exactly. And then everyone kind of clears out of the courtroom except for Atticus and then all the black folks up at the top. And they, as Atticus is packing his stuff, they all stand up. And Scout is still sitting on the floor, and the Reverend is like, Miss Jean Louise, you stand up for your father. He's about to pass by. And he doesn't even seem to notice them because he's just like obviously in his own world, but
right. He's
they all stand up for him as like a mark of respect as he exits the courtroom. And I think that's another very powerful image.
to me. To me, this was the scene that I remember most about this movie, and
Mm-hmm.
those words where he tells Scout, he's stand up, and she's like, why? And your father's passing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like he he tried to help, one of our own people, and then
Mm-hmm.
so he deserves our respect. So,
Yeah. And he like really tried.
oh
Like it wasn't
gosh, oh
like
yeah, it wasn't
I'm
like,
appointed as the attorney, so I'm showing up. I'm a
yeah,
body
exactly. Oh
here to
yeah,
fulfill like an obligation. No, he's like,
he
I know he
he's in
didn't
it.
do it, and I'm gonna try my damnedest to like prove that. Even
Exactly.
though we know like the odds are against us. They get home, and Jem is like really sad
Oh yeah.
because I
He's
think he's a little
he's
bit older.
distraught.
He
Yeah.
has a little more understanding than like Scout does. And he's like, damn, like he didn't do it
Mhm.
and he was found guilty. And the neighbor lady that like hangs around, that comes around, she tells him that Atticus is one of those people that we really need because they're people that have to do the unpleasant things that we really need to get done. And your father is one of those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then someone comes, is it the
It's
sheriff
the
that comes?
sheriff. Sheriff pulls
And
up.
he tells Atticus that Tom is dead. They were trying to transfer him to like another jail. And
So he'd be safe.
yeah, and he took off running. He tried to escape and they shot him. The sheriff was supposed to just like wound him, but he killed
Yeah,
him.
but yeah, he said that, yeah, he was shooting to wound him, but he missed and killed him instead. So
Hmm.
it sounds, like you don't know, but you hope that
Hmm.
that was the case, if
Yeah.
that was the truth or not. So,
Yeah. And it's really sad because Atticus like was fully going to appeal.
oh,
Like he
oh
was
yeah,
in it.
yeah, and you can just see he's like,
Yeah.
you know, he's just deflated.
And he's going to be the one to go tell Tom's family. And Jem is like, "Well, I'm coming with you."
Mhm.
And I think Atticus tries to be like, "No." Jem's like, "No, I want to
Yeah,
come."
yeah. And I like that dynamic between Jim and Atticus, where Jim
Hmm.
knows, this is the kind of man that I want to be when I grow up. So I want to, if he's going, then I'm going. So,
Hmm.
like, we're in this together. Just like he
Yeah.
was at the jail when the guys came up. Atticus tried to get them to leave, and Jim said, "I'm not leaving."
Hmm.
Because he knew, that things were going to go bad or could go bad.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
anyway, so
Yeah. And it's really sad because Atticus walks up and the first person to greet him is Tom's dad, Spence. And he's like, "We want to talk to you about the appeal." And Atticus is like, "There's not going to be an appeal. He's
it's,
dead." And his wife Helen had like just kind of come out as he said that, and she like collapses.
yeah.
And it's so sad because they were all like happy to see Atticus.
Oh yeah,
Like,
like because he said, I'm going to go out and talk to your family, and then they were expecting him to come out and
mhm,
say, this is what we're going to do, or
yeah.
this is what the next steps are going to be, because they're not sure. I'm sure they Atticus knows the law. He's a lawyer.
Hmm. Yeah. And Atticus kind of goes in to help tend to the wife, and then fucking Bob Ewell shows up again.
This I guess everybody lives within 10 feet of each other. It's like
Right. Also, like, you won, dude. Leave these people alone.
well,
Like,
that's the other thing. I thought he walks up there and there's like 5 or 6, maybe even more guys out there, and he's one person by himself, and
mhm,
he's like acting like an asshole.
right. And he walks up there and calls them boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You tell Atticus Finch to come on out here. and then he spits in Atticus's face. And mind you, too, like height difference, like Atticus is a bigger man
Oh yeah.
than
It,
Bob Ewell.
tall and bigger, like, and not
Hmm.
fat, but
Yeah, like broad.
broad, yeah, like, and Atticus can shoot.
Yes, he's the best shot in the county. Haven't you
Uh-huh.
heard,
That's
Bob
right.
Ewell?
Mm-hmm.
Also, to be clear, Bob Ewell's full name is Robert E. Lee Ewell.
I know.
In case
When they
you
called him in the courtroom,
you missed his vibe, he's Robert E. Lee Ewell.
I'm surprised he didn't have a Stars and Stripes bandana, like
Right.
pulling out of his pocket. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
Um, so then Atticus is reaching into his pocket, and Bob Ewell is shaking in his boots during this very slow reach.
because he's reaching around, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to his right hand side where
One
somebody might
might
pack a piece.
store a gun. But Atticus, again, he doesn't believe in fighting. He pulls out just a handkerchief to wipe the saliva from his face. And he just walks around him and gets in the car and leaves.
Also, like, I don't know if you noticed, after he wipes his face with it, he drops his handkerchief onto the ground. He doesn't even,
Mm,
it's like, I don't even want that near me with your spit on it,
of course.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
I'll just leave
Get
that
this
here.
nasty stuff out of here. I don't
That's
need
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I can't even wash it to make that
Right.
right.
You are so trashy that I'm now throwing this handkerchief away.
Exactly. You're a mean
Um,
one, Mr. Grinch.
exactly. You're a nasty westy skunk. Um, and then things are kind of chill for a while.
Yeah.
They cool down.
Scout says they calm
Yeah.
down, and we're into October.
It's Halloween. And this Halloween costume, I almost want to wear this. I almost want to make one of these.
I swear to God, I was going to Google, like, I was, I
Maybe
was,
this is our next costume. I'll make a ham and you just wear some overall. You wear your little you be Gem.
no, I'm going to do Dill
Okay. Okay.
in a
I was gonna
pair.
you could also do Boo Radley. Just
I,
like look
well, I
ooky
could,
spooky.
but I was thinking about doing Dill and wearing shorts and then the high socks and
Yes.
dress shoes and
I'll
the
just wear
little.
a ham. Oh my God, that would take a while to construct like an adult sized ham.
You could probably buy one. I swear to God, I'm sure you could.
Probably. But you
So,
know me. I'm paper mache. That
uh,
was obvious. That was paper mache.
and I was going to say, you could look at that. You knew that was paper mache, but my God, was that great looking though?
Yes. So for people who haven't seen the movie, for school, they have a little pageant showcasing the agricultural products of their county, and one of them is ham. And so Scout is just wearing a giant paper mache ham with like there's like holes at the bottom for her legs, like to put it on and for her legs, and then there's like a little slit at the front for her like to look. And that's it. She's just a big ham.
And it has ham written on it.
It says ham. In case you didn't know she was a ham, it just says ham.
It really is. I mean, it's well done though. You
It
got to admit,
is.
yeah.
It
So,
is. I'm sure Calpurnia was working on that thing. Um,
yeah. So,
and then the best part is so Jem escorts her to her school thing, and they're leaving, and she has lost because on the way they were carrying it. She was wearing a dress and shoes, and they were carrying
right.
the ham. So on the way out, she has somehow lost her dress and shoes. I love this too. He's like, where are your shoes? I can't believe you lost your dress. And she was like, well, and he's like, wait, where are your shoes? And she was like, I don't know where they are. And he's like, you lost your shoes too? And she's like, I didn't lose them. I just don't know where they are. So she's wearing like undergarments and this ham
I guess
barefoot.
like a slip or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
and no shoes.
No shoes. She's barefoot. I didn't lose them. I just don't know where they are. So cute. I love these kids. So they're walking home though, and they're
through
clearly
the
like
through the spooky woods.
yes, and the vibe is spooky, and there is a someone is following us, and they're kind of calling out like, "Hey!" No one's answering, and then finally a man, and you don't see who it is, but a man comes and like attacks Jem. He knocks Scout over. Scout's in this damn ham thing, so she's like a turtle on its back,
Exactly. Yeah.
kind of
And
flailing around. She's got to sort of roll herself over. And Jem is like trying to tell her to run, but obviously she's having trouble with that. And the guy knocks her over again. The guy like knocks Jem out,
yeah, because
like
he sort of
unconscious.
flies and then
Yeah.
lands on his back, and then yeah, he's out. So
And then the guy is sort of coming for Scout. And it's kind of funny because we're sort of witnessing this through just her little eye slit in the ham.
it's very well done.
It is. It is very well done. And then another man comes and it's sort of a scuffle between the two of them. And then one of them falls down, and then the other man that has come to sort of to the rescue is carrying Jem
Jim.
home. And then eventually Scout just takes off the ham. She's just walking in her undergarments. She goes running actually once she sees the guy carrying Jem because
Right.
she doesn't know
Who it is.
who it is, like what he's doing. And then Atticus has obviously just seen like Jem be carried in, and he's like, "Oh my God, Scout!" Like he's very relieved to see Scout because he was
Yeah.
like starting to yell
It,
for her.
it grabs her up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, he has Cal call the doctor, and Jem is like out. She's like, Scout asks if he's dead,
Yeah.
and Atticus is like, no, he's just unconscious. Like he'll wake up. He calls the sheriff. He's like, someone has attacked my children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the doctor comes. Jem has a broken arm, and
And he's bruised. You can see he's got like a black eye or something,
yeah,
on his right
right
eye.
side on
Right.
his face.
I don't know if you noticed that or not. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I
I knew
wonder
what
who could have done that.
I figured you SVU stuff would kick in. So
I'm putting things together. Uh,
okay.
well, also then the sheriff comes and he puts the pieces together for us. Bob Ewell was found near the ham costume. He comes in with he has the ham costume.
I,
To be clear, we
good
have
for the
not lost
sheriff.
we have not lost the
Don't
ham.
don't leave that out there where it might be evidence.
Exactly. Exactly. Even though obviously evidence doesn't seem to matter that much in court cases here. But Bob Ewell was over there and he's been stabbed to death. There was a kitchen knife stuck up under his ribs or whatever, I think is
Right.
what he says.
And oh, he's dead, Mr. Finch.
Yes.
He's
And
dead.
they ask Scout what happened. And again, God, I just love listening to this little hick child talk. She's like, well, I don't really know. There was a man and he knocked over Jim, and then there was another man and he was fighting him and da 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 da.
When like
Um,
she said, then I heard him cough. I heard
mhm,
somebody cough, and then it was
mhm.
quiet, and
Yes.
we all know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. The death rattle.
Yeah. He probably got hit in the lung, so he's probably
Probably,
coughing up
yeah.
some blood.
Yep.
Um,
Couldn't
take
have been a
that.
nicer
Enjoy
guy.
hell, Bob Ewell.
That's right.
Um,
May you roast.
yep. Roast like a ham. Like a ham in hell.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Look at
Very
that.
good.
She learns that it was Arthur Radley, or Boo, as they call him, who brought Jem home. And then he's there lurking in the dark corner of the room the whole time. They
Behind the
sort of behind the
door.
door, so the door kind of is like,
And I wonder, did Atticus know he was there? Because
yeah,
Scout looks around and she goes, "Well, there he is. That's who carried Jim."
yes, and it's
And it's like he's like, "Oh my God!" And then
they
okay,
were
so you
scared.
you you describe Mr. Duvall,
So yes, Boo Radley is played by Robert Duvall, a very young Robert Duvall. You should know who Robert Duvall is. I think a lot of famous roles. Tom Hagen, the consigliere in the Godfather movies. He has been in like a million things. I don't know why the other thing that comes to mind is the movie Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell, where he's Will Ferrell's dad and they're like coaching opposing soccer teams.
oh well,
Um,
Lonesome Dove, the TV
okay,
miniseries, yeah, where he played
sure.
Gus McCall. So
Or Kicking and Screaming. I
or
mean,
Kicking and Screaming.
you
So
know, his the
okay.
peak of his career, Kicking and Screaming. But He is, first of all, it's the youngest I've ever seen him look. He has blonde hair that's sort of like spiky and disheveled.
Mm-hmm.
He has like the biggest dark circles
Oh
around
my
his
God.
eyes.
Like he hadn't slept in 6 days.
Yeah. And he just has a sort of like,
Sort of a haunted look about him.
that's exactly the word I was going to use,
I'm sorry, I didn't
haunted.
mean to
No,
jump.
no, no, we're on the same page. Like, it looks like he doesn't blink.
Yeah.
And
And
he
he's,
might, but like he has this sort of like just like wide-eyed haunted look.
yeah,
Like he kind of looks like a ghost.
he does. He's real pale
Mm-hmm.
also.
Because he just stays inside and only
And,
comes out at
and,
night.
and he's got like, I guess the working man's clothes. He's got like it's like a khaki work shirt and a pair of khaki pants,
Yeah, and they're
yeah,
sort of like wrinkly and you know what I
baggy.
mean? Yeah, like
Yeah,
they don't
they're
quite
not,
fit him.
they're not dirty, but they're just like kind of, yeah, like kind of oversized or whatever.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exact. So, it is nice too that Atticus is like, Scout, this is Mr. Arthur Radley. He sort
yeah,
of formally introduces them.
yeah, he knows who he is. But like I said, did he know he was like standing in the corner
In
of
the
the room?
corner. I'm
Uh,
like, listen, Boo, you're not helping your reputation here,
I,
friend,
I know
by
it's
creepily lurking in the corner
corner.
like a vampire.
I know. Yeah.
Like it
Sort.
looked like a horror movie when like the killer is like behind the door
Oh,
and they
like
just like appear from the shadows.
right. Yeah.
But again, once again, Scout is just like a nice little kid. She's like, "Oh, hi, Mr. Arthur. Do you want to come say hi to Jim?" And she just takes him by the hand. Do you want to say goodnight to Jim? Is what she says.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
say goodnight to Jim? She immediately also starts calling him Mr. Arthur. Mr. Arthur, you want to say goodnight to Jim? And she takes him by the hand over there. And he's looking at him and she's like, you can pet him if you want to, Mr. Arthur, but only when he's asleep, because if he was awake, he wouldn't let you. And then, he kind of strokes his face a little bit. And you can see that, like, he has sort of been, like, looking over. He's sort of been, like, their, like, guardian angel, like,
I
from
was,
afar.
yeah, sort of looking out for him, and
Hmm.
uh, yeah, leaving little things and stuff where like he wanted to, I guess, reach out to him in some way,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
and felt that, thank God he, came along,
Yeah.
that he was there.
Yeah. And she takes him outside to sit on the porch on their swing. And certainly, obviously, like, if you haven't read the book or seen the movie, like, Boo Radley obviously is like, there's something about him, right? He's like
It,
intellectually disabled or
I
like
was gonna
has some
say,
sort of like mental illness or
or he's on
something.
the spectrum or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he
So
doesn't speak at all in
no,
this.
there's
You can Robert
he
Duvall
had
does do a good job of like he's clearly like emoting
just through
just through
his eyes and his facial expression, but especially his eyes, because at
Mhm.
first there's tenderness and kindness, and then you can see he's also a little bit sad seeing Jim laying there with a broken arm and stuff, and then
Mhm.
thinking, he's hurt, and then, but
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so
Yeah, and I
maybe I'm
think
reading
obviously particularly him and Jem had this like kind of relationship,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
Jem is usually the one it seems like to find the
the little
things that he
trinkets,
leaves.
yeah, the little
Yeah.
things, little mementos. So
Outside, the Atticus and the sheriff are talking about what'll happen with Yule being killed. And the way Atticus is talking, he seems to think that it was Jem that
right,
stabbed Yule.
yeah,
And the sheriff is like, Jem didn't do it.
because you think your boy stabbed Bob Yule.
Right. Like, first of all, obviously it was Boo, like the other adult man. Like,
Right. Yeah.
it was kind of funny. He's like, "Oh, my son, my 10-year-old didn't stab this adult man."
I know, because he's thinking like, I can't remember how old Jim is. Is he 12 or 13? Anyway, we'll do I'll go down to the courthouse, and it's like, dude, your kid didn't kill
Your kid
Bob.
didn't kill someone. The sheriff is like, as far as I'm concerned, Bob Ewell fell on his knife. Period. Because I like he fell on his knife and killed himself. He said there is a black man who dead for no reason, and now the person responsible is dead too, and we let the dead bury the dead.
It it's a nice piece of work from the on the part of the guy playing the sheriff, didn't you think?
Hmm.
To me, it
Yeah.
was like, yeah,
Yeah. And then he goes on because he's like, obviously they know that Boo did it, and he's like, here's the thing: people would celebrate him if we drag him out and put him on trial for this. He's gonna be a hero to people here because fuck that guy. But he doesn't want that. I'm not trying to drag him into the spotlight. That would be a sin.
well, I like how he said, like, every woman in town, including my wife, would be bringing him angel food cake. It's
Yes.
like even because yeah,
It would be
because
like, ding dong, the witch is dead.
he did this town a service,
Hmm.
and but he said, yeah, he said it'd be a sin, you know.
I'm not going to put him through that. Even if it's like good attention, that's he like can't. There's a reason the man's like a recluse. Let him
Right.
be.
Yeah.
And the sheriff leaves, and Scout talks to Atticus, and she said, I think the sheriff is right." He's like, about what? And she said, "I think, well, to do that would be like to kill a mockingbird." Title alert. Uh, because he's Boo's not. He's just over there not doing anything to anybody, right?
Right. And
So let's just.
he saved the kids.
Yeah, and Atticus does go over and thank him. Thank you for my children,
Mhm.
and shakes his hand and everything. So I think once again showing that like Atticus is just like a kind person who like treats everyone with respect, right? Because obviously Boo is an object of like ridicule and rumor and like craziness in the town. And Atticus is like, no, this is like a man, and he saved my children's lives.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, he knew right from wrong, and
yeah.
and he dealt with it the way he knew how to deal with it. He didn't
Hmm.
call for the sheriff or anything. He took care of things when it had to be taken care of.
Hmm. And then Scout just takes Boo by the hand and walks him home, which is so funny that like the 7-year-old is walking this adult man home.
I know, I love that though, where
Um,
she walks him over to his house,
yep,
holding
she
his hand.
walks him all the way up to the door, and he just goes in, and in the voiceover, older Scout is talking about all the things Boo gave them, like the soap dolls and the medal and the watch and their lives.
Yeah, yeah. And she would think back on that time
Hmm.
often, she said,
Yeah.
as the years went by.
Yeah, and she says like it's like her dad said that you never really know a man until you walk in his shoes. And she was like, but maybe standing on the Radley porch was enough. So, she's got some insight into him.
Yeah, because the
And
house it's a big house and it's right next door, I guess,
mhm.
to them, but you
Yeah.
can tell it's, it has been painted and it's not
Yeah.
kept
It's a
up, and
spooky house.
it is. It's kind of a,
It's in disrepair. The windows are kind of like darkened. It feels like you can't really see
yeah,
in.
the yard's not tended or
Hmm.
anything, so yeah,
Yeah, and like you said, it's the Scout voiceover says these are days she would think of like again and again throughout her life. And that night, Atticus stayed in Jem's room all night, and he would be there when he woke up the next morning. And that's the end.
it's it just I have to say it really, it really made a big impression on me again watching it, for
Hmm.
the full all the way through again this time, because it's not on TV very often anymore,
Yeah.
but it always comes up. uh Lindsay and I are, of course, movie buffs, but we also, and also the Academy Awards, but Turner Classic Movies plays it
Hmm.
every year when they do celebrate the Oscars.
Yeah.
It's always in their repertoire of the 31 days of Oscars when they show
Yeah.
movies.
And they do like different themes. So
Yes,
they show this one for the lawyer
for the yeah
theme.
for
So they have like
attorneys. Yeah,
moms and like dads and all this stuff. But this could also be a good dad one
it could be
too.
a good dad one. I thought about that, and
Because
I
I
thought
do
at
think that
first that's
Atticus
what they.
Finch is an iconic. I thought they were because they said like yesterday we did moms, and today I thought they were going to say we're doing dads, but they said we're doing lawyers.
I know that's what
So I
I
was like,
thought. I
oh,
thought the very same thing. I thought, really?
but he
Okay,
is
well,
like he's an iconic dad too, like a
yeah,
good dad, a solid dad to have.
very much so.
A little
So,
stressful maybe the line of work, but
oh,
a
sure,
good
being
dad, just like very caring and like doting on his children and devoted to them. And just again, like there's nothing that he couldn't explain.
Yeah. And supportive. It wasn't like
Yes.
it wasn't like he was like, the overbearing father. Although he,
Hmm.
like he said, told Scout, "I forbid you to fight."
Yes, he had some rules, but he wasn't
Yeah,
um
and you don't say that word.
authoritarian or anything.
Yeah, you don't use that word. So,
Yes. Yes.
um,
And anybody's welcome at the table.
yeah, exactly. And
Walter Cunningham.
they can eat the tablecloth if they want to. So,
Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, I think that I hadn't like I said I hadn't seen the movie in its entirety and I haven't read the book since I first read it.
oh, okay. I haven't read the book in God decades. So,
Yeah, I read it like 20 years ago, so a little more. It was it was a really nice like reminder of the story and
hmm,
I think again like the power of having it from the children's perspective was really something and I think it really does nail it. I think it just the messages I think are just so much stronger coming from the perspective of a child because it's
that's a
sort
good
of
point.
like an untainted perspective.
That's a good point. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. And
And
actually, I never
certainly,
thought about that when I saw it the first time. That
yeah.
it
And
was,
certainly I think there is some aspect of like, a little kid telling a story about their dad is maybe gonna like they lionize their dad a little bit. But I think, with Atticus it well deserved.
yeah, yeah, because it was borne out. I think of all the things, and even the children are surprised at some of the things that they're made aware of that their father is able to do or had done. You
Yeah,
know,
and I think just like the respect that people have for him, like when everyone stands for him.
right. It on well, for the most part, most people have respect for him. Bob Ewell didn't.
Yeah. And the people who don't have respect for him, like, they're not worthy of respect.
Right, exactly. They're yeah,
Anyone respectable has respect for
respect.
Atticus Finch.
So even, yeah, from anywhere in town, from whether, and one little scene that we didn't talk about early on in the movie, one of his other neighbors, Miss Dubois or Dubois or
Mm.
whatever,
Oh,
Dubose
yes.
and how, I guess he makes fun of her in the house, but when he goes by,
Oh, yeah,
he
because
he
the kids won't even look at her because they're
look,
like, she's got a Confederate pistol under that blanket. She'll shoot you.
and
And
but
but she's
he
yelling at them as they walk by. She's yelling
you
at the kids.
you call me Miss DuBose or whatever, and then and he goes up and he's like, all talking about her flowers and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and Scout is talking about how he doesn't talk about her like that in the
And
house.
he's like, I love that he's like smacking the kid. The kids are like
Yeah.
talking their little shit behind his back, and he's like whacking them a little bit with his hat, like, shut up.
Exactly. Like,
It is a funny, that part was funny.
yeah, we're, he puts on a good presentation
He's a
for the,
charmer,
he
Atticus
is.
Finch.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that
while
part, I forgot about that part, but that
I,
part
d-
was
yeah,
funny.
yeah, and she's kind of disarmed by that after he talks to
Yeah,
her
when
like
he
that,
talks about how beautiful her garden, she was like, "Oh, I didn't think it looked as nice this year," and he was like, "Oh,
it,
it's beautiful."
so and so's has nothing on your garden or whatever.
And you can tell she's like,
Oh, I know.
okay.
And she's got like six blankets on her, and it's
Yeah.
again, it's in the middle
She
of.
looked like 100 years old
She
too.
did look. Yeah, she looked like she could be a Confederate widow.
Certainly.
So, well, let's see if you think 1864 to
She looked
19.
like this might be not a reference everybody gets, but in one of the last Harry Potter movies, when they go to Harry's parents' house and there's the old lady, but the snake is inside of her.
Oh,
That woman looked like her. She
yeah,
looks like
yeah.
she's dead with a snake inside of her.
I forgot about that.
Nagini
Yeah,
is in
yeah.
Bathilda
Okay,
Bagshot over there.
there you go. So,
That's what she reminded me of, just like the way her hair was too.
yeah, she had that like white wispy hair and stuff. So,
But yeah, that
um,
part was funny. I forgot about. I just loved with like Jim and Scout are like, "You didn't say that at home," and he's like, "Shh, be
like
quiet."
hitting him with his hat, like,
Yeah, get
shh,
behind
quiet,
me.
quiet, quiet. Um, Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the movie and had an opportunity to see the whole thing. So,
Yeah, I really did. I think that it was well written and well acted. And I think that, like, not all movie versions of books are good, but I think this is a really, really good adaptation. And I think in some ways, maybe like, I don't know, it hit a little more strongly than when I read the book. But
and
maybe
when you
it's
read
just
the
because
book,
I haven't read it in a while, but I think it like captured a lot of what's good about it and and
hmm
and really drove home like the emotional messages. And I really think that like the kid actors in this movie are really good.
they're excellent. All the three children,
Yeah.
well, and even the small bit parts like Walter Cunningham and
Mm-hmm.
and that, but yeah, you get that sense of innocence and wonder and then but also like curiosity and then just
Mm-hmm.
and kids being kids, it's like I dare
Yeah.
you to go up there and you're too scared to do this and
Yeah.
stuff and
My mama is a photographer in Meridian, Mississippi.
poor Dill, like he said he didn't know he didn't have a father, but
Yeah.
but
They're like,
then
"Oh, did he die?"
yeah,
And he's
no.
like, "No,
And
he's
and
just
they're like
gone."
bewildered, yeah. And then he makes up stories about different jobs his dad has to. That's why
Hmm.
he's away all the time.
Yeah.
He runs a railroad. He flies an airplane. He does
Mm.
whatever. So, but
Poor little Dill. Always getting
or
yelled at by Aunt Stephanie.
yeah,
I'm coming, Aunt Stephanie.
who was uh on the show Bewitched? Alice Ghostley played his aunt, and she played the I think Mrs. Kravitz or in the
Is that
first.
it's a neighbor?
Yeah, the ant lady, but I think she was on Bewitched, the TV show
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And
with
she's in, is she in Greece? Isn't she the shop teacher in Greece?
I believe she is, yeah. So, and what a great name, Ghostly. That's
Yeah.
her real last name, Alice Ghostly. Was reading Harper Lee wanted desperately for Gregory Peck to be the Atticus in the movie
Hmm.
and so on, and then during the movie there's a scene where he shows Scout his pocket watch. Well, that's actually Harper Lee's dad's watch. She gave it to him to use during the filming of the movie.
Oh,
So
nice.
he that's what he used as to and I think I read somewhere that that sort of kept him in character, with that,
Hmm.
using that. So but anyway, so yeah, a good movie, and I hope that if our listeners haven't seen it or even haven't read the book, do one or the other, but enjoy the movie by all
Yeah.
means. It's a long movie, but the story's very well done. It doesn't play that long, or at least it seemed to me.
Yeah, I don't think it feels that long. And I
No,
like this description of the book, but I think this is a really good description of like the movie too. The novel deals with racist attitudes and the irrationality of adult attitudes towards race and class in the deep South of the 1930s. And I feel like that's it. I think that's what you get from it being told from the kids. It makes no sense, right?
r-
I
r-
think you can explain most things to a kid in a way that makes sense, but there's just no way to explain that in a way that makes sense because it
right,
just doesn't.
yeah. Um, and you know what? I just thought of something. Have you seen? There's a new thing running on TV, and it talks about I hate you because of whatever, and Snoop Dogg and a couple of other people. And
Yeah.
they say the reasons for hating are stupid. And
Mm-hmm.
then this sort of seems maybe to tie in a little bit with that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason. That's not a reason to hate because you're different or because the skin color is different or you believe in something different or whatever. You know what I mean? It just
Mm-hmm.
anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's a reach, but
No, I think so. And I think it goes back to,
it's
again, not to like
irrational.
keep bringing up like the same things from different movies, but like Gene Hackman's dad in Mississippi Burning, right? That's what it is for Bob Ewell.
Yeah,
He's like a poor
yeah,
like loser and he needs to have something up on somebody. Mr. Cunningham,
right,
he's poor and struggling and he needs to have something up on somebody even though if he's a poor struggling farmer, he probably has more in common with Tom Robinson than with anybody else.
exactly. Yeah, just trying to make his way, just trying to make through in life, where you would do a job for a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
because a nickel was a lot of money. Because didn't she say she saved up? He talked about how she had saved up this money and stuff so she could
Mm-hmm.
give the kids money to go get ice cream so that she would be alone with Tom,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it was all, just the lengths that people go to, and then, like you said, and then she was embarrassed and guilty,
Yeah.
and because of being caught by her dad.
Mm-hmm. And he beat the crap out of her for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Also,
So
Tom had a wife, ma'am. He wasn't coming for
right, he
you.
was, yeah, and had children, and
He had a whole family. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe they didn't have much, but you could tell that the family loved each other, and
Mm-hmm.
that he wasn't this predator that was lusting after Emma, whatever her name was,
Mayella.
Mayella.
Listen, Mayella,
Mayella wasn't
you're
all
not
that.
cute.
I was getting ready to say, Mayella, wasn't all that in a bag of chips. So
Mm-hmm.
just saying. Um, anyway,
So I think this is it's a as I've said about other movies, it's a classic for a reason. And unfortunately, a lot of the movies that we're watching on this theme like feel relevant now. I wish they didn't.
I know, I
They
know.
do. I think just, you know, I think it's a good metric of like what you believe and what you stand for if like you would feel comfortable explaining it to like a 6-year-old, right? If a
That's
six year
really
old saw
that's
what you're doing and said, "Oh, hey, I know you," would you feel bad and embarrassed? Because if you would, then maybe that's a sign to do something different.
you're smart. I didn't thought of that.
I'm
Yeah,
just,
if you yeah.
it's all Harper Lee. I'm just rolling with it.
No, no, no. No. It never occurred to me but you're right. It's a great point to make. It maybe someday we'll look at these movies, or someone will look at these movies and go, "God, people really acted like that back then.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how people, did act, or
I
that's how
hope
things
so.
were." So
Yeah. Hopefully it will feel less relevant one day.
I
But
hope so.
until then, I really encourage everyone, like Jim said, read the book, maybe buy the book, keep a copy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, or download it or something.
before it's
So
like there's a Fahrenheit 451 situation out here. And watch the movie. Great performances, great writing, great art direction, all of it.
mhm. I
It's
really
black and
th
white too.
which
That
kind of
is a
gave it
point.
a more nostalgic feeling to me.
Yeah, because obviously in 1962 you didn't have to make movies in black and white. Like
No,
there were
yeah.
color, you could make things in color, but obviously this was deliberate choice. It takes place in 1932-ish, so like, I think we're creating
Hmm.
a mood, you know. So, but yeah, I think everyone should check it out. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you can get all of our episodes on Mondays when we release them. Please leave a comment, leave a rating, review. It should be nice or we're going to send Boo Radley after you. Please check out our Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the movies that we've talked about. Almost 50. We're getting close to 50 there are a variety of genres and things. So check that out. Hopefully there's something that you like there or maybe something you haven't seen. We post little previews of what's coming and whatever else comes to mind. And until next time, bye bye.
Take care.